So, interesting thing already happening with this is I can't let myself be full of shit, and I know when I'm full of shit. And by that I mean, so this is my second time recording, actually. And that's because the first time I did it, I was thinking about, doing it and kind of pushing a subject. But ever since I stopped recording it, I've actually lost my mind, which I feel like if the whole point of journaling on video, well, if that's the whole point, then I shouldn't be losing my mind after, because otherwise I didn't journal proper. The whole point of journaling is to feel better, is to work through thoughts. So I'm not accepting the first video, and I'm back here doing it again. Sorry, I'm moving a lot. And that's because I'm anxious. Emotions are strong. I'm terrified. One of my fears that I have, and the one that's bugging me a lot, is that I somehow have this fear that everyone's just looking for a way out, like looking for a way out of me, or looking for how to get me out. Every time someone's away, I have this imagination of wild scenarios that they're somehow about to have a better life, that they're about to create a new life and be so happy, and they'll never want to come back and never want to be around me. And I fear that. And in CBT, there's a thing called core values, and I'm not a therapist, so I can't explain that as good as they would, but pretty much we all have core values, right? And that's kind of stuff we picked up on growing up. And they are the value that guides pretty much all of our life. You obviously have good core values and bad core values, so you have a balance. And the way to find your core value is to dig, constantly ask why, right? I'm afraid of this. Why? Well, because of this. Oh, why? Oh, because of this. Okay, but why this then? Because of this, blah, blah, blah. And then you make your way down. And my core value is, or the one that's bad at least, that I think I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I fear I am not enough or not good enough. I'm terrified. And so this whole thing of being terrified of people finding a better life out there is because deep down, there's this voice that keeps telling me that I'm not good enough. That obviously anyone that gets a chance to be away from me has a chance to actually see a better life. That somehow when they're around me, they can't. That they're blinded. That it's okay. It's not bad. It's okay. But that they only discover how good it is once they're elsewhere. The thing is, I know that's not true. That's I'm not trying to be so dark. I have no clue the level of dark, and I don't want to overthink the level of dark of this. Pretty much, I know it's not true because many people have actually been fine with me around, I still have a best friend after 16 or 17 years of friendship. A person chose to propose to me, to say, I want you around forever. It's this constant battle in your thoughts between the core values and the counter statements. Or at least to me, that's currently where I'm at. The core value and the the negative self-talk will be one side of that argument. And then the other side is me countering that with actual facts. Because the thing about it is, when I have a fear like that, a lot of the times it's not founded in truth. you know? When you have a fear, you can ask yourself, do I have a reason to be afraid? Is there actually genuine reason to be afraid? And if there is, then you're right to be afraid, right? But it's like finding facts. It's like if I'm in the forest and I'm afraid that there's a bear, well, I don't have any signs that there is. There could be, there could not be. If I'm in a forest and there's a sign that says bears, then I'm clearly right to be scared. But if I'm downtown in the middle of the city and I'm afraid of bears, then that's where I have to go, okay, well, I'm not in the forest and there is no sign that there are any bears and I'm really far from them. It's a pretty tricky metaphor, but pretty much every time a fear like this or super negative self-talk shows up like that, I have to go, okay, well, is that actually legitimate? Like questioning my own words. Whether they're good or not, I question my own words. Is that a legitimate thought? Is that a legitimate fear? That people obviously will have a better life when they're somewhere else and I'm not there, you know? That somehow being away from me is what actually shows them, oh, look, here's a better life that you're willing to give up this other thing for. And there's no proof of that. So that's good. There is no sign of bears. There's no proof because people haven't done that. Yeah, some people have gone on and had like better lives, but not that way. Not like while they're good with me and then suddenly better elsewhere. Just through their own journey. And that's fine. So, with real facts, it hasn't happened. But my brain fears that shit so hard. And it is really difficult. This is something that normally, right, as a way to take agency over this, a lot of my life, I was the one that got out. So much in life, people actually were better off without me, or so I made myself believe. And so a lot of the times I was the one leaving. I actually literally left, like moved insanely far away multiple times. And that was my way of being like, look, I'll decide for you. I'll decide for you that you're better off without me. And then maybe they are, but that's because I made that decision. I didn't give them a chance to choose for themselves. And I did all that in a way to protect myself, you know? Well, if I leave first, then you can't hurt me. Then you having a better life can't confirm to me that I have a not good life. And that helps. It helps with the feelings, it helps with the pain because, well, no one's hurting me. But you know where it doesn't help? It doesn't help because I didn't face that. In other words, the whole time I made sure I wasn't stepping into the forest. I didn't actually learn to understand bears. I didn't figure out the good tricks for a bear not to freak out around you and want to attack you. Because not every bear wants to attack you, just like not every fear actually will hurt you. So the whole time I took agency and walked away, which is pretty much all my life until now, I wasn't helping myself. I was saving myself this level of pain, sure, but now instead the work that needs to be done is I need to understand that people can be okay in my life. They can be happy with me around. They can choose to actually stick with me, which I constantly question, right? I have a ring on my finger and I constantly question. I have a best friend that still will call me every 2-3 months and we'll have a 2-hour discussion like as if no time has ever passed, except for the fact that we have a bunch of stories to tell, but zero difference in our friendship. Plenty of people have been fine with me in their life. And in fact, the people that have been fine with me in their life, I find have a good life too. So not only were they fine with me in their life, I did not pull them down. I was just given up on a lot as a kid. And it's so much easier to just think, well, everybody else will again. That's how it was. They did it then, they should do it now, right? If it didn't matter then, why would it matter now? But I'm working on it. I'm currently in the working on it phase. Sometimes I can record these and I've healed the thing I'm talking about, but in this case, I'm literally working on that right now. And this long distance relationship is like, that's why my phone's there, you know? But this long distance relationship is what's bringing that to the surface, because the rest of the time, I don't have to face this problem. I'm not afraid people are gonna leave. Look, my partner's gone. I don't have anyone. So everybody else is already gone because I usually was the one to create distance. So this is forcing me to face it. But this time, I'm not giving up. I'm not giving in. I'm not trusting that fear. I'm trying instead to find where the truth is. Is that fear founded in truth? Is there a sign for a bear? Or is it just me? Am I just afraid of all the other times there was a bear? Not knowing that this time there isn't. I find it funny that I didn't believe the first video at all. Like, I did it and it was fine. It was fine. But literally, I was like, I feel like shit now, worse than before I talked about it. It's a tricky thing, I think. And there's so many factors, like ADHD. I grew up without a father. A lot of moving around, so loss of friendships, loss of surroundings, like loss of comforts, constant change. Definitely makes you think, you know, I don't know, like every time, you know, since it's constant change and it's constantly a new group, you're never, like, you don't show up and end up being the fucking top of something, you know? Usually I'd show up and I'd have to try to fit in. I wasn't good at being a loner when I was a kid. I was constantly trying to fit in, which is ironic because now I know how much I enjoy being a loner. You want to know one thing that's really sad? My grandma said that to me, I think 2 years ago. She said, I don't know what happened, but up until you were 5 or so, you were the most extroverted kid. I thought I was introverted my whole life. I thought it was clear. And she just was like, you were going up to everyone, talking, not shy for shit. And then something happened at some point. And you started not enjoying that. You started fearing that. And I have extreme social anxiety now. So it makes me sad because I just assumed I was just, you know, introverted. And that's why I have social anxiety. I'm introverted. But instead, I discovered that at the source, something happened. That it was probably from all the times I tried to fit in, all the times I was just openly going into groups. Or, I don't know, all the situations I ended up in and seeing the people walk away. And then you build the rest of the scenario in your head. And with ADHD, God, am I good at building scenarios. I can come up with 20 really legitimate scenarios for every fear I have, like to actually back it up. But once again, my grandma said that to me literally like a few months ago. She said, but don't do that. Like, yes, you can. Yes, you have the skill. Yes, you are really good at that. Don't do that to yourself. When you notice it happening, call yourself out. Say, don't do that. All I'm doing here is hurting myself. These are thoughts that I'm putting in my own brain. And then my imagination is so vivid that I'll eventually believe it and build upon that to grow a fear, like to actually grow more afraid. And I know it's silly, like, don't do that. But it's actually somewhat helped because I do that now. Like, I'm actively imagining scenarios and imagining all the reasons why everyone in my life is going to eventually tell me, hey, I'm better off without you. Sorry, man. But then as I do that, at least I'm lucky enough to have that voice that goes, don't do that. Don't fucking imagine that. Don't say that to yourself. Don't build this scenario. Wait until it's real. So not in a foolish way that nothing will ever happen and none of that will ever be real. But instead it's, don't make up the 200 scenarios. Let the one scenario happen on its own and then deal with it as it goes. Because you think and I think that planning for 200 scenarios means I'm ready when it happens. But in reality, I'm ready for 200 scenarios. That's a lot of fucking feelings and emotions. That's a lot of stress. That's a lot of pain. Yeah, I'm ready to deal with 200 scenarios. And instead, if I wasn't so afraid, and I keep reminding myself, don't try to plan for 200 scenarios, I can just deal with one scenario, which I would have done anyways with my imagination. I would have done it 200 times. But instead, constantly trying to tell myself, don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Don't think that. Just, hey, imagination, shut up. Because whichever scenario happens is meant to happen anyways. It was going to happen. Me planning 199 others, that didn't do shit. That just caused me pain and no one else. So I fear that everybody else is going to be better off without me. And I'm not saying to you that that fear is gone. Like this video I'm making and that fear is going to stay with me after I hit cut, stop recording, you know? But I think it's the addressing it that's worth something. I think it's finally telling my brain, hey, maybe you're wrong. You were right and it kept you alive for so long. Maybe now you're wrong. Maybe it's time you let the truth happen on its own. Don't be so preemptive. Instead, just be ready to be reactive. And even when I do react, I try not to overdo it. But that helps because I do have experience with 200 scenarios so many other times. I swear to you, when an event actually happens, I have this fucking superpower that kicks in. Whether I predicted it or not, I am a whole other person. Like somehow there's gears that just kick in and I'm locked in. I'm like, cool, how do I survive this? How do I deal with this? Bam, 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 bam. Okay. So it's okay to be afraid, but the imagination doesn't help me and it doesn't help you. And all I have to do is wait for the truth. If someone eventually tells me, hey, I am better off without you, well then, okay, that'll be confirmed. But so far, the proof has been the opposite. There's plenty of people that have stuck around. It's people that are happy for me to be around. That even when I don't see value in myself, others do. And it's so hard to believe. But it's true. It's true. Fuck. Ooh, shit, okay. A little emotion there. I'm not as bad as I consider. So my not being good enough, my not being enough, maybe that's wrong too. It's just really something to work on. One step at a time. But for now, I just gotta lose my shit over this one fear. And then I have to constantly remind myself not to lose it. Because what's another situation when I got through so many? At the end of the day, I've survived everything else. I would survive everything again. I will survive everything again. I truly think that the only thing that will take me out eventually is myself. Like, the only thing that will make me actually give up is myself. Something to be said about resilience. And I think if you're watching this, you're resilient. Because someone that's giving up on themselves doesn't fucking waste their time listening to some guy ramble about mental health and potentially hope to have some bit of info. I think you have some resilience too. And the same way I'm currently trying to tell myself that I'm actually not as bad as I consider. Maybe you can do the same. I hope I help you with that. And if not, I also apologize. But I am very glad that I can't fucking lie to you. Because I was afraid that was going to happen. I was afraid I was going to start thinking, ooh, what if I do it for that? What if I focus on the camera? When in reality, all I have to focus on is me, my emotions, and being here right now, and talking through my thoughts as though I was journaling on a piece of paper and no one else could ever read it. We're going to be okay. We are going to be okay. Yeah. So, I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe.